Hey there, I have a tool for you that I think could be really helpful. If you're approaching your one-on-ones with people in your organization, your staff, your employees, and you're not getting the results that you ultimately desire, it could be something as simple as you're taking the same approach with every employee or staff member and not treating them as unique one-to-one relationships. They all have different skill, different will, and by understanding that difference and having a game plan going into the meeting, it'll be so much more effective. So let's dive into this and see how we can apply it. Let's first define skill and will, just so we have a working definition. A skill is an individual's capabilities based on his or her experience with the task, training, knowledge, and then their natural ability. Task, training, knowledge, and natural ability. The will, it's an individual's desire to complete a particular task based on attitude, incentives, confidence, and personal feelings about completion of the task. All right, so now that we have a baseline of skill will, before I get into some kind of working definitions and questions to ask, I want to say this. Over the last couple of weeks, I don't know why, but in the different entrepreneurs and leaders I coach, I've noticed a greater focus on we're behind on our goals, or we're on track for our goals, but we're not making maybe the profit the business should be. So should I be slashing payroll and slashing expenses, or should I be doubling our goals and working even harder, right? There's been kind of this theme. And the way I look at it is I think every case by case is different. Right? For some people, they very much should be slashing expenses and cutting payroll, because the last decade we're coming out of, all they've done is thrown more people and more systems and more costs at problems or issues in their business because times were good. Money was cheap. So what I would say in that circumstance is, when's the last time you looked at your organizational chart and really looked at who's in what seat on your bus, and are they operating at the highest function today as they were when they were first hired? Or 2 years into the role, or 5 years in. And please don't mistake me and hear me saying like, oh, John wants me to lay off people, or, I need to cut, payroll or change things. No, what I'm saying is you should be looking at that at least on an annual basis, if not more frequently, to make sure that you have the right people in the right seats within your organization. Think of a baseball game. The starting pitcher starts the game for a reason. Oftentimes, that same pitcher doesn't finish the game because they have what's called a closer. And so the manager and head coach is watching the progression of the game, and depending on the situation in the game, the skill set of the pitcher that he has in the bullpen waiting on the bench, and the pitcher in the game, and the willpower and the ability of that pitcher to continue on. Is he getting tired? Is he exhausted? Are they making hits against him? Did he injure himself? Right? Because that head coach has to think about not just this game, but in 5 days when this pitcher goes back out again to play again. Well, you got to do the same thing in your organization. You're wanting your employees and your staff to show up not just today or just this week or just this month. You want them there for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, thriving. And so sometimes to help somebody thrive in your organization, you got to look at skill and will, and you also got to say, are they still in the best spot possible for both them and the organization to succeed? Let's quickly review the 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, so if you're picturing a grid, right? Quadrant 1 would be top right. This is high will, high skill. This is often an experienced person who's looking for more opportunities to grow or develop. That's top right. Quadrant 2 is low skill but high will, so they're top left in the quadrant. This is a person who has the desire to complete a task, but maybe lacks necessary skills. Typically, this is a person new to a task who's very enthusiastic and wants to learn, but they lack skills or knowledge to actually make a difference. Quadrant 3 is right below 1, so it's high skill, low will, and it's bottom right. This is a person who has the skill but not the will or motivation. This is often a skilled, maybe experienced person who has hit a plateau in their either job or career and needs a new challenge. And then lastly, quadrant 4, bottom left, low will, low skill. Don't hire them. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Low will, low skill. This is a person who often has started a new task, but maybe they don't desire to do it. So they don't have the confidence and the skills they need for it. And they also don't even want to do it. Maybe because they don't have the confidence. This may also be a beginner to a task who just has low confidence issues across the board. They're afraid to fail across the board. So they go into paralysis and not into action. So let's get into a couple quick coaching techniques that I think can help each of these quadrants. The first quadrant we talked about, your number one, right? These are the people who have high skill, high will. The approach you want to take with them in your one-on-ones is empowerment. What can I do to empower this person? Well, what does that mean? It means provide freedom in completion of their tasks. Encourage them to take ownership and responsibility on a project or idea. Involve them in the decision making. What do you think about that? Well, if you were calling the ball, what would you do, right? Ask for their opinion. Give them praise and always recognize them for successes. By empowering this person, you'll be amazed at the amount of freedom you'll give them and what they'll accomplish without you even there. The opposite of empowering is micromanaging. And this is why talented people leave your organization. They hit a lid and they keep hitting that lid of being told what to do, and they look for an environment where they can do more of their own creativity and more of their own freedom on, tasks and projects and so forth. So empowering talented people with high skill, high will yield amazing results. The next one is guide. So this is someone that has high will, they're motivated, but their skill is lacking. So some suggestions on this. One, identify and provide necessary training and tools to complete the tasks. So maybe they're just not proficient in a system that they need to be. So do you have video trainings or tutorials or quizzes? Or do you have to sit with them for a period of a couple days or weeks to show them what to do so they can ultimately gain more skill sets in that area and they move over to empowerment? Do they have set clear expectations? Have you created a risk-free environment for them to learn? So failing safely. Are you taking the time when they mess something up to actually debrief that and make it a teachable moment? Critical. They're not going to be a rock star in day number one. You want to check for understanding and aptitude, right? You want to make sure that they're retaining what you're teaching. Provide frequent feedback. I always say this to leaders as they hire on assistants or administrative workers or staff members. You should be meeting with that person at first daily, not always in person. It could be over the phone, over text. Then move to 2 to 3 days a week and then into a weekly cadence. And eventually, depending on your reporting structure, you may only talk to them monthly or quarterly. But you need to start and make sure that their direct report is supporting them with different areas for them to succeed. Because if they are willing and motivated and they don't succeed, but you haven't created an environment for their skills to be developed, you failed as a leader. They didn't fail as an employee. Number 3 is motivate. This is high skill set, but low will, right? So this is bottom right underneath empower. This group is often composed of experienced people who may have hit a plateau or need a new challenge. They have the skills and ability, but they're not motivated. Many of those in this group have been motivated at some point, but over a period of time, they lost it. It may be due to boredom, frustration, lack of recognition, or another reason. Therefore, it's very important for the motivation quadrant, bottom right, to first identify the reasons for the low motivation. Because it could be something outside of work. It could be something outside of your control as the leader. If they have a family member with stage 4 cancer, you could have the best bonus structure in the world and have the most frequent meetings in the planet. But if you're not hearing their pain points around their family member, they're not going to do anything for you that's going to help the organization, and they're going to be checked out. They're going to be mentally somewhere else, right? So some suggestions here is discuss what would motivate them, develop intrinsic and extrinsic motivations and incentives, praise them, and recognize and reward success. This motivation quadrant is all about relationship. More than any of the other 3, it's about relationship. It's about understanding what makes them work. And then lastly, direct. This is the low will, the low skill. This is often a person who has started a new task that they didn't desire. It was assigned to them. However, they may also be a beginner to a task and they just simply have low confidence and they're afraid to fail. Therefore, it's important to first identify the reasons they fall in this category. So some suggestions on directing: determine the reason for low will or low skill, get them motivated, show them what happens when they do succeed before you focus on skill set. Figure out their big why, figure out what gets them excited. Remind them of that when they get frustrated in learning a new skill. That's how you can reinforce will and skill. Talk to them about what would motivate them. Maybe it's that trip to Hawaii that they want to take. Maybe it's losing 25 pounds. And so if they hit a certain benchmark or metric within the organization, you offer them a discount on their gym membership, or you give them a bonus that covers 3 months of that. That's finding alignment of when you hit these skills or projects, the will is tied into how you're rewarded. Identify and provide necessary training and tools to complete the tasks. So you get the idea: empower, motivate, guide, direct. And here's the last thing I'll just say around this situation. Before going into your one-on-ones with your team, before sitting with them and giving the feedback that they so desperately desire, think to yourself, where does this person fall in the quadrant? You might be supervising somebody that does multiple projects, and they might be an empower quadrant for one of those projects, and they might be in direct for another one that's brand new on their list. Do not make broad brushstrokes across all your employees and treat them all the same, because they're not. You must meet your people where they're at and adjust your one-on-ones to cater where they are in skill and will. And if you do that, you'll be a more effective leader. You'll get more out of your relationships with your people, and your organization will accomplish so much more. If you found value in today's episode, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss a lesson to be the leader that you deserve to be. And until next time, lead on.